Exploring the surge in neurodivergent diagnosis, science or awareness. Now we've got a good video today. So, have you noticed a growing conversation around neurodivergence? It seems like more people are being diagnosed with ADHD, autism, dyslexia, and other neurodivergent conditions than ever before. But what's really behind this surge? Is it due to scientific advancements that allow for better diagnosis, or is it simply that our society is becoming more aware and accepting of different ways of thinking? Now in this video, we'll break down the factors contributing to the rise in neurodivergent diagnosis. Now we'll explore the role of modern science, shifting social norms, and whether this trend signals something bigger happening in our world. Now remember, this is education mixed with entertainment, so let's analyze this train of thought accordingly. So, we're going to explore the topics shaping our world today. Because have you noticed how often terms like ADHD, autism, dyslexia, and other neurodiverse conditions are being discussed? It feels like more and more people are being diagnosed as neurodivergent. But what's really going on here? Is there an actual rise in neurodivergence, or are we just getting better at recognizing it? Today we're going to dive deep into the factors behind this surge in neurodivergent diagnosis and answer the big question. What is the big question? Is this about science, awareness, or something else entirely? So let's start with science. Over the past few decades, our understanding of the brain and how it works has grown tremendously. So advancing in neuroimaging, genetics, and behavioral research have allowed scientists to better pinpoint the traits and characteristics that define neurodivergent conditions. For example, new diagnostic criteria for ADHD and autism have been updated to reflect a broader range of behaviors. As science improves, more subtle forms of these conditions are being recognized. It's not just that the people are more neurodivergent today than in the past, it's that our tools for diagnosing it have improved. So it's not just about that people are more neurodivergent today than in the past, it's just that our tools for diagnosing it have improved. It's a very important point. Now studies show that diagnosis for conditions like autism and ADHD, they have increased significantly over the last decades. And this is partly because we've refined what we're looking for. Many adults who might have flown under the radar as children are now being diagnosed later in life because our understanding of these conditions have expanded. Our understanding of these conditions have expanded beyond the stereotype. So another major factor is awareness, because society is more informed and more accepting of neurodivergence than ever before. In the past, people who struggled in traditional settings like schools or workplaces were often mislabeled as lazy, difficult, or just different. Today, there's a greater understanding that not everyone's brain works in the same way. Now, thanks to advocacy movements, social media, and the increasing representation in the media, more people are recognizing the traits of neurodivergence in themselves and also in others. This is particularly true for women and people of color, who are historically underdiagnosed due to biased diagnostic criteria. So, with increased awareness comes a desire for answers. Parents, teachers, and even employers are now more likely to seek a diagnosis when someone struggles in conventional environments. This is especially important. This is especially important in schools, where educators are trained to recognize signs of neurodivergence early on. But what is the goal? The goal is to provide support that allows neurodivergent people to thrive, rather than forcing them to fit neurotypical molds. So speaking of representation, pop culture and social media, of course, have played huge roles in this awareness explosion. Today we see more characters in TV shows, books and movies who are openly neurodivergent, giving people real life reflections of their own experiences. You've probably noticed the rise in content creators who talk openly about their ADHD, autism or other neurodivergent traits on platforms like YouTube, Instagram and TikTok. This visibility has made it easier for individuals to understand. It's made it easier for individuals to understand their own minds and seek out professional diagnosis. In fact, this can sometimes lead to a self-diagnosis trend, which has been both celebrated and criticized. Some argue that self-diagnosis allows people to understand themselves and seek support, especially if they don't have access to healthcare. It's a good point. While others are concerned that self-diagnosis might blur the lines between normal variations in behavior and medical conditions. Regardless, this cultural shift is undeniably playing a part in the surge of neurodivergent diagnosis. So what does this all mean? Is the rise in neurodivergent diagnosis purely because we've become more aware and have better tools? Or is something else going on? Well, experts say it's probably a mix of both. Awareness and scientific progress play major roles, but some researchers are looking into other possible factors. Could environmental changes like diet, pollution or screen time be influencing neurodevelopment? Are cultural pressures or the pace of modern life contributing to the rise in diagnosis? These questions are still up for debate, but what's clear is that the increase in neurodivergent diagnosis is not as simple as one explanation. Now, one popular theory suggests that the way society is structured, which is fast-paced with high demands on attention and social interaction, could make neurodivergent traits more apparent, leading to more diagnosis. What might have been dismissed as quirky behavior in the past is now something we take more seriously, because the world we live in requires different cognitive skills than it did, say, 50, 70 or 100 years ago. So, is this surge in neurodivergence about science or awareness? Well, again, the answer is both, plus a few other factors. The tools we have today allow for better and earlier diagnosis. So the tools we have today allow for better and earlier diagnosis. But the cultural shift towards understanding and accepting neurodivergent people has played a huge role too. As we continue to evolve as a society, it's important to embrace these differences and find ways to support everyone in living their best lives. So that is the end of the video. If you want to support the channel, like, subscribe and watch the content. I repeat, if you want to support the channel, like, subscribe and watch the content. Also, as some of you know, I have a social enterprise called Neuroexpression. If you want to check that out, click the link in the description and download the free PDF called What is Dyspraxia? And with that being said, I sincerely hope you enjoyed the content.